The air, crisp with the promise of winter, carried the faintest scent of pine and something else, something sweet and distant, like forgotten cookies. It was early December, but the chill that seeped into our old house felt like the very breath of Christmas itself, a breath that usually brought warmth and light, but this year, felt heavy with unspoken worries. I remember the worn, wooden floorboards groaning under my small feet as I tiptoed to the window. Outside, a thin veil of frost glittered on the bare branches of the oak tree, transforming each twig into a delicate, crystalline sculpture. The sky was a bruised purple, fading into a steel gray that promised snow, though none had yet fallen. My brother, Leo, a year older and infinitely more boisterous, was still asleep, a tangled mess of blankets and unruly brown hair. I could hear his soft, rhythmic snores from the room next to mine, a comforting sound that usually punctuated our quiet mornings. But today, even that sound felt different, shadowed by the hushed tones of my parents from the kitchen below. Their voices, usually so bright and full of laughter, were low, almost whispers, carrying a weight I didn't quite understand, but felt deep in my bones. It was a feeling like the house itself was holding its breath. I pressed my cold nose against the frosty pane, tracing patterns with my fingertip, leaving fleeting marks on the cold glass. The world outside seemed hushed, waiting. Inside, the silence was even more profound, punctuated only by the occasional clatter of a pot from the kitchen, quickly muffled. My small heart ached with an unfamiliar unease. Christmas was supposed to be a time of joy, of sparkling lights and abundant treats, of the special warmth that only our family knew how to create. This year, something vital seemed missing, like a melody played without its most important note. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Mama, usually a whirlwind of energy, humming carols as she flipped pancakes, moved with a slow, deliberate grace. Her usually bright eyes held a distant, troubled look, a kind of sadness that made her smile feel fragile. Papa, who always had a booming laugh ready to share, ate his toast in silence, his brow furrowed in concentration, as if trying to solve a very difficult puzzle. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with the faint, comforting scent of toast, but even these familiar aromas seemed muted, somehow less vibrant than usual. The usual morning chatter, Leo's endless questions about Santa, my detailed accounts of my latest dream, were conspicuously absent. We ate in a silence that felt heavy, almost suffocating, broken only by the gentle clinking of silverware against ceramic. I remember distinctly the taste of the warm milk, usually so soothing, now felt strangely bland. I swallowed slowly, feeling a lump in my throat that had nothing to do with hunger. Leo, sensing the change as keenly as I did, kept glancing between Mama and Papa, his usually mischievous eyes wide with a quiet apprehension. He didn't ask for seconds, a rare occurrence indeed, and even his usual playful nudge under the table was absent. The festive placemats, woven with cheerful reindeer and snowflakes, seemed to mock the somber atmosphere, their bright colors clashing with the gray mood that enveloped our kitchen. The air, usually filled with anticipation for the season, now felt thick with an unasked question. Later that day, bundled in our warmest coats and scarves, Leo and I set out with Papa to find our Christmas tree. It was a tradition we cherished, a yearly pilgrimage to the local tree farm, where the crisp air bit at our cheeks and the scent of fresh pine was intoxicating. Usually, Papa would tell us stories of his own Christmases as a boy, his voice booming with cheer, making us laugh with tales of snowball fights and frozen fingers. But this year, he walked with a slight stoop, his shoulders a little more slumped than usual. His hand, as it grasped mine, felt distant, almost cold. The tree farm, usually a vibrant tapestry of green and white, bustling with families and the joyous cries of children, seemed quieter, more subdued. The snow that had finally begun to fall, soft and feathery, barely managed to cover the browning grass, leaving patches of muddy earth exposed. The sharp, invigorating scent of pine was still there, a constant reminder of the season, but it felt less celebratory, more like a quiet perfume. We wandered among the rows of towering evergreens, each one a potential centerpiece for our living room, but none seemed to capture Papa's attention. He would run a gloved hand over the needles of one, then another, his gaze distant, his mind clearly elsewhere. Leo, usually the first to spot the perfect tree, was unusually quiet, his small fingers tracing patterns on the frosty branches. He didn't chase me through the rows, nor did he launch any sneak attacks with handfuls of powdery snow. The usual delight of searching for our tree, the excited discussions about its height and fullness, were replaced by a muted searching, a silent assessment. The crunch of our boots on the thin layer of snow was the loudest sound, punctuated only by the distant murmur of other families, their voices hushed by the vastness of the farm and the falling snow. A profound sense of loss, a vague understanding that something precious was slipping away, settled in my chest, a feeling as cold as the winter air. We eventually settled on a medium-sized fir, its branches a little sparse on one side, but its scent still wonderfully strong. It wasn't the grand, perfectly symmetrical tree we usually chose, but it was our tree, and that was what mattered. Papa, with a sigh that carried the weight of the world, began to saw, the rhythmic rasp of the blade against wood a mournful sound in the quiet air. The biting cold seeped through my gloves, numbing my fingers, but I didn't complain. I just watched Papa, his breath pluming in frosty clouds, his movements deliberate and slow, so unlike his usual energetic self. A gust of wind rustled through the branches above, sending a shower of powdery snow down upon us, a fleeting white embrace. Back home, the scent of pine filled the living room, a hopeful fragrance trying to chase away the gloom. Mama, with her usual grace, began to untangle the lights, her fingers moving deftly through the wires. But even this cherished ritual felt different. There was no festive music playing, no laughter echoing through the room. The usually vibrant red and green ornaments lay in their boxes, their sparkle seeming dull in the dim light. Each glass globe, each glitter-dusted star, held a memory, a story of Christmases past, but this year, they seemed to reflect only a quiet melancholy. I watched Mama's face as she carefully placed a string of lights on a branch, her brow furrowed in thought. Her lips, usually curved in a gentle smile, were pressed into a thin line. Her movements were precise, almost mechanical, lacking the usual joy and anticipation that filled our home during this time. The delicate glass bulbs, usually a source of fascination for me, seemed fragile, their colors muted under the weight of the unspoken tension. I longed to ask her what was wrong, to pierce the heavy silence with a child's direct question, but the words caught in my throat, tangled with a fear I couldn't name. Leo, usually eager to help, sat on the floor, meticulously arranging the tinsel into perfect, shimmering piles, a task he usually found tedious. His eyes, fixed on the glittering strands, held a quiet intensity, as if he were trying to find answers in their metallic sheen. He didn't make any jokes, didn't try to sneak a piece of tinsel onto my hair. The usual playful banter, the occasional squabbles over who got to place the star on top, were entirely absent. The air felt thick with unspoken emotions, a heavy blanket that muffled even the soft rustle of tissue paper as Mama unwrapped another ornament. It was a Christmas preparation without its heart, a silent, almost somber ceremony. That evening, as the first string of lights finally glowed on the tree, casting a soft, warm amber light across the living room, Mama called us to her. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, and her hand, as it rested on my shoulder, trembled slightly. The gentle hum of the lights, usually a joyful sound, felt like a nervous tremor in the quiet room. The scent of pine was now stronger, a comforting presence, but it couldn't fully dissipate the unease that lingered. "Children," she began, her voice catching a little, "Papa lost his job. The factory, it closed its doors this morning." The words hung in the air, cold and sharp, like shards of ice. My small world, usually so secure and predictable, suddenly felt as if it were tilting on its axis. Lost his job. The phrase echoed in my mind, a foreign, frightening concept. I didn't fully understand what it meant, but I knew it was bad. I looked at Papa, who stood a little behind Mama, his face etched with a profound sadness I had never seen before. His eyes, usually so full of warmth and humor, were clouded, reflecting a pain I couldn't fathom. The soft glow of the Christmas lights seemed to emphasize the shadows under his eyes, making him look older, more vulnerable. Leo, his face pale, reached out and clutched my hand. His small fingers, usually so strong and playful, trembled in mine. We stood there, two small figures dwarfed by the enormity of the news, the quiet hum of the lights and the gentle rustle of the tree's branches the only sounds in the suddenly cavernous room. A wave of fear, cold and vast, washed over me, chilling me to the bone. All the unspoken worries, all the hushed tones and distant gazes, suddenly made a dreadful, terrifying sense. Christmas, the most magical time of the year, was suddenly overshadowed by a very real, very adult problem. The scent of pine, once comforting, now felt tinged with a subtle bitterness. Mama continued, her voice gaining a quiet strength, though her eyes remained shadowed. "This Christmas will be different, my dears. There won't be many gifts this year, and our Christmas dinner, it won't be as grand. The words were a hammer blow. No gifts. No grand dinner. The very foundations of our Christmas, the traditions we held so dear, seemed to crumble around us. Tears welled in my eyes, hot and sudden, blurring the twinkling lights on the tree into shimmering streaks of color. I had always associated Christmas with abundance, with brightly wrapped presents and tables laden with delicious food. The thought of a Christmas without these things felt like a betrayal, a profound sadness. Leo's grip on my hand tightened, his own eyes brimming. I could feel his silent disappointment, a mirror of my own. We had both been dreaming of specific toys, of the usual feast of roasted turkey, Mama's famous apple pie, and the dozens of homemade cookies. Now, those dreams dissolved like mist, leaving behind a cold, empty ache. The air in the room, previously filled with the hope of the lights, now felt heavy with disappointment, a collective sigh of sorrow. The scent of the pine, usually a joyous aroma, now felt melancholy, like the perfume of a forgotten memory. But then, Mama knelt down, her face close to ours. Her eyes, though still sad, held a flicker of something else, something determined and fiercely loving. She wrapped her arms around us, pulling us close, a tender embrace that smelled of her usual laundry detergent, a faint scent of lavender, and something uniquely Mama. It was a familiar comfort, a warmth that had always been our safe harbor. In that moment, pressed against her soft sweater, the world outside, with its looming worries and diminished Christmas, seemed to recede. Her voice, now a soft murmur against our hair, was filled with a deep, unwavering love. But Christmas, she whispered, is not about the gifts, my loves. It's not about how much food we have on the table. Christmas is about us. It's about our family, our love for each other. That's something no job loss, no hardship, can ever take away. Her hug tightened, a powerful, comforting squeeze that seemed to mend the cracks that had appeared in my heart. The warmth of her embrace spread through me, chasing away the cold fear, replacing it with a fragile, but real, sense of security. Her words, simple yet profound, resonated deep within my soul. It was a revelation, a quiet truth spoken in the heart of our dimly lit living room, surrounded by the scent of pine and the soft glow of the lonely Christmas lights. It was a reminder that the true magic of Christmas wasn't in the material things, but in the unbreakable bond of our family. I could feel Leo's small body pressed against mine, his silent tears mingling with mine, but even through the sadness, a glimmer of hope began to bloom. Mama's hug, her words, were a balm to our wounded spirits. They were a promise, whispered in the quiet of the evening, that even in the face of hardship, our love would shine brightest. The next few days were unlike any Christmas preparations we had known. There was no bustling trip to the toy store, no frantic baking of dozens of different cookies. Instead, Mama found creative ways to stretch our meager resources. We made paper chains from old newspapers and magazines, cutting and gluing colorful strips together, our fingers sticky with homemade paste. The rustle of the paper, the gentle snip of the scissors, became the soundtrack of our quiet crafting. The scent of drying glue, oddly comforting, filled the air. We gathered pine cones from the woods behind our house, their rough, textured surfaces dusted with a thin layer of frost. Mama taught us how to paint them with leftover glitter and a touch of white paint, transforming them into sparkling ornaments that caught the light with a humble charm. Our hands, cold from the outside air, slowly warmed as we worked, focused on our creations. The faint, earthy smell of the pine cones mingled with the subtle scent of paint. Each glitter-dusted pine cone, imperfect and unique, became a symbol of our resilience, a small testament to the beauty that could be found even in scarcity. The kitchen, usually filled with the rich aromas of baking, now carried the more subtle, yet equally comforting, sense of simmering soups and warm bread. Mama, with a quiet determination, created delicious meals from simple ingredients, each dish imbued with her love and care. The warmth radiating from the oven, the gentle bubbling of a pot on the stove, provided a different kind of comfort, a quiet reassurance that we would be all right. The clatter of pots and pans, usually a cheerful cacophony, was now softer, more deliberate, a rhythm of quiet resourcefulness. One afternoon, as the soft snow began to fall outside, blanketing the world in a pristine white, Mama pulled out a worn box from the back of the closet. It was filled with old photographs, sepia-toned memories of Christmases long past. We gathered around her on the faded rug in front of the fireplace, the crackling flames casting dancing shadows on the walls, a warm, flickering light that chased away the gloom. The faint, sweet smell of wood smoke mingled with the subtle scent of old paper. Mama pointed to a photograph of a young girl, her hair in braids, standing next to a small, lopsided Christmas tree. "That's me," she said, her voice soft with nostalgia, "when I was about your age. We didn't have much that year either, but it was still the best Christmas. My father, he made me a doll out of corn husks. And my mother, she knitted me a scarf. They were the most precious gifts I ever received, because they were made with love." Her words, spoken with such tender recollection, painted vivid pictures in my mind. I could almost feel the rough texture of the corn husk doll, imagine the warmth of the hand-knitted scarf against my skin. It was a story of love and resourcefulness, a quiet testament to the true spirit of the season. Leo, his head resting on Mama's shoulder, listened intently, his eyes wide with fascination. We spent the rest of the afternoon listening to her stories, stories of simple joys and profound love, stories that reminded us that the true meaning of Christmas transcended material possessions. The crackling fire, the gentle rustle of the falling snow outside, and Mama's soft, storytelling voice created a cocoon of warmth and love, a sanctuary from the outside world. On Christmas Eve, a sense of quiet anticipation settled over our home, different from previous years, but no less potent. The air, still carrying the faint scent of pine, was now also imbued with the subtle aroma of Mama's ginger tea, a comforting, spicy warmth. The paper chains, colorful and festive, draped gracefully from the ceiling, their humble beauty somehow more touching than any store-bought decorations. The glitter-dusted pine cones hung like tiny, shimmering jewels on the tree, catching the soft glow of the meager string of lights. It was a testament to our collective effort, a visual representation of our resilience and creativity. The snow outside had grown thicker, muffling the world in a pristine, silent embrace. The windows, frosted with intricate patterns, created a magical, otherworldly glow in the dim light. We sat around the small kitchen table, the only light coming from a single flickering candle, its gentle flame casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Mama, her face illuminated by the soft light, read from the Bible, her voice soothing and resonant, sharing the timeless story of Christmas. The scent of melted wax, subtle and comforting, filled the air. Papa, his arm around Mama, watched us, a gentle smile playing on his lips, a warmth returning to his eyes that had been absent for weeks. Leo, his eyes wide with wonder, leaned into my side, his small hand clasped in mine. We sang carols softly, our voices blending in a heartfelt harmony, the simple melodies filling the quiet room with a profound sense of peace. The familiar words of Silent Night and O Holy Night took on a deeper meaning, resonating with the quiet strength and love that permeated our home. The Christmas feast, though simpler than usual, was prepared with immense care. Mama had somehow managed to procure a small roast chicken, its skin golden and glistening, filling the house with a delicious, savory aroma. There was no elaborate stuffing, no multiple side dishes, but the warm, earthy smell of roasted potatoes and carrots mingled delightfully with the chicken. The scent of homemade apple pie, spiced with cinnamon and nutmeg, promised a sweet ending to our meal. The table, usually groaning under the weight of an abundance of food, held only the essentials, yet it felt richer, more meaningful than ever before. Each dish, prepared with such love and dedication, tasted extraordinary. We ate slowly, savoring each bite, our hearts full not of longing for what was missing, but of gratitude for what we had. The warmth of the food, the comforting scent of the spices, filled us with a deep sense of contentment. The soft clinking of silverware against our few good plates, usually reserved for special occasions, felt elegant and refined. The conversation flowed easily, hushed and gentle, filled with shared memories and quiet laughter. It was a meal of love, a communion of spirits, a testament to the power of family. As the evening deepened, and the snow continued to fall, transforming the world outside into a hushed, white wonderland, we gathered in the living room. The Christmas tree, with its humble paper chains and sparkling pine cones, glowed softly, a beacon of hope in the dim room. The air was filled with the lingering scent of pine and the gentle warmth of the wood-burning stove. Papa, his voice a little shaky with emotion, cleared his throat. "My dears," he began, his eyes moist, "Mama was right. Christmas is not about the gifts. It's about us. And because of your Mama, because of her strength and her love, we have had the most beautiful Christmas of all. She reminded me what truly matters." He reached out and took Mama's hand, a tender gesture that spoke volumes. Mama, her eyes glistening, pulled us into another one of her amazing hugs. This time, it felt different. It wasn't just comfort, it was a celebration. It was a quiet triumph. The warmth of her embrace enveloped us, a powerful surge of love that filled every corner of our hearts. The scent of her perfume, a faint floral note, was mingled with the comforting smell of home. I could feel the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the steady beat of her heart, a rhythm of life and love. In that moment, nestled in Mama's arms, surrounded by the soft glow of our humble Christmas tree and the quiet hush of the falling snow, I understood. The fear, the sadness, the disappointment, had all melted away, replaced by a profound sense of peace and joy. This Christmas, stripped of its usual material excess, had revealed its true, shining core. It was a Christmas of love, of resilience, of the unbreakable bond of family. It was a Christmas I would carry in my heart forever, a reminder that the greatest gifts are never wrapped in paper. The following morning, Christmas Day, we awoke to a world transformed. The snow lay thick and pristine, blanketing everything in a hushed, magical stillness. The light filtering through the frosted windows was soft and ethereal, painting the room in shades of pearly white and soft gray. The air, though cold, felt fresh and clean, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from the chimney. There were indeed very few gifts under the tree. Leo received a hand-carved wooden bird, painstakingly crafted by Papa from a fallen branch, its smooth, cool surface a testament to his love and patience. I received a hand-knitted scarf from Mama, soft and warm against my skin, its simple pattern a ripple of love. The vibrant red yarn felt soft against my fingers, a comforting weight around my neck. These weren't the toys we had dreamed of, but they were infinitely more precious, imbued with the love and effort of our parents. They were tangible symbols of their resilience, of their unwavering love for us, especially in the face of hardship. The faint, sweet smell of the new wool mingled with the earthy scent of the carved wood. We spent the day playing in the snow, our laughter echoing in the crisp, quiet air. We built a snowman with a carrot nose and button eyes, our hands growing numb from the cold, but our hearts filled with a boundless joy. The crunch of the fresh snow under our boots was a delightful sound, a symphony of winter. The biting cold that nipped at our cheeks felt exhilarating, a vibrant sensation of life. The rosy flush on our faces, the feeling of snowflakes melting on our eyelashes, were all part of the magic. Later, huddled together in front of the crackling fire, sipping Mama's warm ginger tea, we read stories, our voices soft and contented. The flames danced in the hearth, casting warm, flickering light on our faces, creating a cozy sanctuary. The comforting scent of wood smoke filled the air, mingling with the spicy warmth of the tea. It was a Christmas unlike any other, not for its abundance of gifts or lavish feasts, but for its profound simplicity and the depth of love that filled every moment. It was a day woven with threads of quiet joy, shared laughter, and the unwavering warmth of family. That year, my mother's hug truly saved our Christmas. It didn't magically bring back Papa's job or fill our stockings with toys. But it did something far more important. It reminded us that the true spirit of Christmas lay not in what we had, but in who we were, a family bound by an unbreakable love. It was a Christmas that changed everything, teaching us a lesson that would echo through the years, a lesson about resilience, about the power of love, and about finding joy even in the most challenging of times. Years later, when I had children of my own, I would tell them the story of that Christmas, the Christmas when Mama's hug changed everything. I would describe the feeling of her arms around me, the warmth that chased away the fear, the quiet strength in her voice. I would tell them about the paper chains and the glitter-dusted pine cones, about the simple roast chicken and the hand-carved bird. I would tell them that the greatest gifts are those given from the heart, those imbued with love and sacrifice. And as I spoke, I would feel the warmth of that hug all over again, a timeless embrace that continues to define the true meaning of Christmas for me, a legacy of love passed down through generations. The scent of pine, even now, brings back those feelings, a powerful, comforting wave of nostalgia. The memory of that Christmas remains vivid, a shining beacon of love and hope, reminding me always that the most precious things in life are intangible, yet profoundly felt. It was the year we truly understood Christmas.